So, Maya, can you please establish quorum?
Trustee Hack, Trustee Hernandez, Trustee Rocha,
Here.
Vice President Lathan,
Here.
President Lewis.
Here. Okay, so we will, we have item number 2 is closed session, so we will close the public session and go to closed session. we will go ahead and
Start.
Okay. All right, so we will go ahead and re-enter open session. So Maya, if you could establish quorum.
Sure. Trustee Hack, Trustee Hernandez.
Here.
Trustee Rocha,
Here.
Vice President Lathan,
Here.
President Lewis.
Present. Okay, so reports from closed session, there are none. So next, we will have our flag salute. Superintendent Anello, would you mind leading us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Oh, thank you. Next up is item 4, superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening. So there was a lot of talk. I'm sorry I missed the last board meeting. I was out sick, but there was a lot of talk when I reviewed it about community engagement related to the bond. So I just wanted to show the board where we are in the process. So if you'll look, you'll recall that in June and August, this was an exploratory conversation with the board regarding a possible bond. And then we hired a bond consultant at the August Board of Education meeting. We hired a bond survey consultant to survey community members to see if the feasibility of a bond passing. And then at the last board meeting, that's where we hired them. And you'll see that on the October 25th, we'll be bringing that back, the survey results. And it's at that meeting that the board will decide whether or not to move forward. Once we know that the board's moving forward, we begin our public information, community engagement campaign. We solicit donations, and then we kick off the campaign. So that's just to show you where we are. You may have, if you're a parent, already received the survey, either by telephone or by email. So we encourage everyone to fill that out.
And if folks have missed it, is there a way for them to still engage and participate?
Yes, we're going to put the link on our website beginning tomorrow, so they can still do that. Thank you for that question. And then,
I have questions about
Yes.
that. I can wait until you finish all of your updates.
No, it's fine if you
okay.
wanna-
You want me to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. So question about, thank you for having the kind of outline of the process. One of the questions I have is around long-range facilities master plan. So I know that we got a checklist of things, but as I've been doing my research, I'm learning a lot of districts get a formal long-range facilities master plan so that the district has guidelines and kind of guidance in the community as well on what we're going to do. And so do we have that?
we do. And I believe it's on our website, but I'm happy to send out a link
Okay.
to the board also.
So if you can share that, and did an outside company do it or we
An
did it?
outside company
Okay.
did it,
And when
yes.
do you know when it was done?
I want to say 2017, but our needs are
I think it was 2019.
2019? Okay, are still great.
So I'm hoping it's recent enough that it shared, like it talks about the needs that we have in our district. Because the checkoff was nice, but it was also it felt scattered and not comprehensive. So it's like a toilet here, and I'm over exaggerating, a waterfall here, but what is the overall comprehensive plan for what that's going to look like? Otherwise, it's going to feel like $200 million is going to fix it stuff versus, and that's not. I don't know how well the community is going to accept that. So thank you for sharing that.
And a lot of that list came from, if you'll remember, in 2020, we surveyed the community did a feasibility bond survey. And so a lot of those items actually came from the community also. And we thought it's been such a short time since that we were also still valid as a starting place.
Yeah.
So
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know Brentwood, they're going to share with me theirs. They told me they're on this plan, for example, it'll say every 10 years, every school gets repainted, regardless, even if it doesn't look like it needs to be repainted, to keep up their site. So that's what I'm looking for.
Miss Robbins
Like,
did that for Brentwood.
Because we're in such a, oh, you did?
Yes.
Because we're in such a place of the buildings are not in good shape. And it's like, how do we get here, right? So that's the challenge. So I'm glad that you were the person who helped, because then you can help us. And then bond measure campaign, I learned that we are not supposed to use district funds. And I just heard
Correct.
you talk about fundraising. And so I'm interested to see what that looks like, because for yard signs, for flyers, so anything, we cannot use district funds for that.
Correct.
So, okay.
Or time, yes, of employees.
Or time.
Or resources.
Okay.
Yep.
We went through with the
Oh, wow.
last couple of bonds.
And I just want to share, I had the pleasure, senior management visit our central kitchen this past week. And it's amazing the work that they do, feeding probably in total 18,500 students in the community, breakfast, lunch, supper, and a snack every single day. And just the heart that they do it with. So it was just really such a pleasure to see just all of them working together for the benefit of our students. If you'd ever like a tour, let me know and be happy to accompany you. Also this week, I did some site visits to learn what initiatives the schools are involved on that are unique to their site. I was able to visit Marsh, Kimball, and then today I visited London and Fremont. Very exciting stuff, but it's also a good opportunity for me to see some areas that maybe have gone neglected, that maybe need some different set of eyes. So taking notes on those and passing those along. And then I'll be visiting Dozier and Orchard Park later this week as well. And finally, I just want to wish everyone a wonderful fall break. Next week, I hope everyone has time to rest, rejuvenate, and get excited for the rest of fall. Thank you.
And I just have one question about the bond process. There, we had on that slide, it said extensive community engagement. Can you give maybe just a tiny excerpt on what we mean by extensive?
Yes, so once the board decides to move forward, every school will start with 5 to 10 parents that they kind of mobilize as their team. We have a list of probably 20 events that we can attend just to provide information. Also, every school will be holding parent involvement, community engagement at their site. We'll be giving them sort of a template to work off of, and they'll be providing the feedback.
And if parents want to be part of that 5 to 10 at their school site, how could they go about to do
They
that?
could either email me directly, would love to connect with them, or email their principal. Yes, if you know of anyone, let me know.
Trustee Roche, Trustee Roche, did you have any questions or comments for? Okay, so thank you for that report.
Yes.
Next up, we have our high school report. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Good evening, Board of Education and members of the community. My name is Natalie Modokin, a senior, and I'm here representing Prospects High School. If you're unfamiliar with Prospects, it is the district's independent study site for 9th through 12th grade. Students come into school 1 to 3 times a week, weekly, to meet their teachers and attend attend in-person classes. The number of times a student comes into Prospect depends on their grade level and their credits need to graduate. I am in my senior year. I attend Prospects twice a week in the morning for my Algebra 2 class and my independent study teacher appointment. For the past few weeks, seniors at Prospects participated in senior events, which include tie-dye class of 2024 t-shirts. On Monday, seniors were treated to a senior breakfast meeting and setting up and served by teachers and staff at Prospects. Students who attend Prospects attend for various reasons. I've heard many stories from students who have had better school experience transferring and completing their graduation requirements at Prospects. I am attaining excellent grades at Prospects High School, which certainly can be done at any school, because Prospects has such a smaller amount of students, I have more resources at my disposal. Also, teachers get to know their students more because of the one-on-one appointments. We turn in and receive our homework and get help, etc. There is no academies or special programs at Prospects campus.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? First of all, thank you for
Thank you.
being here as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Questions or comments, Trustee Hernandez?
No, thank you for being here, for giving an update. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Trustee Dr. Latham?
Thank you for sharing. Your last comments were there are no academies or student programs. I think you said student.
Yeah, there's no
Special
programs or academies at
Yeah.
Prospects.
And so, is that a positive or something you want to see changed?
I believe it depends on the students. And sometimes some people don't have time for it and some students do. So I think it really just depends on the demographic of students that year that are coming in, that are leaving. I think it can change though. I think we should maybe start like monthly programs maybe some students could do, or even weekly, because some students just don't have time depending why they're at Prospects.
Great, thank you. I would
you.
like
Thank
to
you for
hear
that.
ideas, if you could email us.
Okay,
on, like,
yeah.
Specific programs.
Yeah, I'll have Miss Cornell help me with that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Rocha?
Thank you.
No, it's good to hear from you, but I'm looking forward to that kitchen when it opens up for lunch. We start doing catering.
Absolutely. It's always a wonderful thing when we can hear the voice of our youth. So that way they can keep us sort of moving in the direction that's going to be most beneficial to them. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. So next up is Section 6, public comments. Individuals to address the board regarding items not on the agenda from the public. It looks like there's two. The first one, I believe that's Terry Jones or Turney Jones. Terry. Okay. My apologies. Yeah.
Good afternoon. And my name is Terry Jones, and I'm here to address nutrition. Okay, so my grandson, he attends Thomas Gaines Virtual Academy in Antioch, and the principal is Miss Berry. So the children that are on low income and low income programs, like when you go to school and you start school and they ask you for your income and all that and you give it to them, then you can get a free lunch and all that. But I know they give everybody free lunch now, I think. But the state or the county or whoever gives children or that are in school, they get a stipend of food stamps. So since he goes to a virtual academy, he doesn't get it. And to me, you can go to the school and get a bag of groceries, but you get a couple of $100 worth of food stamps to feed children. So the principal told me that they didn't apply for this program. So that's why they don't get it. But my thing is, why wouldn't you apply for that program for low-income kids, just the same as the ones that go to school? And he's done so well this year. He's in the 6th grade. He got straight A pluses and 1 A minus. So we just over the moon over him, because, you know. But I couldn't understand why it was like that, because it seems so disproportionate for some to get this amount and some to get another amount. And so I came to the board because the principal really couldn't tell me why. She didn't have an answer for me. I've never been before the board before. And I have a daughter that's 35. So this is my first time. But I felt like it was necessary and it was serious enough to bring it before the board. So that's all if you guys can check into it and just let us know.
If you'll leave your contact information, I believe you're referring to the EBT, which is a
Yes.
federal program.
Yes.
And I don't believe that we do the application process. That's a federal thing. So I don't know. We'll see how we can help you with your concern.
Right,
For
but
sure. If
she
you can
just-
give it to Miss Robbins.
She
But
just said that they didn't apply for the program. That's Virtual Academy, Thomas Gaines Virtual Academy didn't apply for the program. So that was my question, is why not? Why wouldn't you apply for the program?
Probably.
yeah, let us look into that and see what we can do for your grandson.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
because
you
there
for
may have
coming.
been some confusion around the free lunch program and the EBT program, because again, those are separate programs. But we can look into it and figure
Definitely.
out a path forward. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
And you did a great job for your first time.
Yes.
All right, next is Mary Lutz. There she is. Yeah.
So I was here last time complaining, and I want to say that the issue was resolved for the 504s. They were able to find his 504 filed in a area that they didn't normally look. So it was a little frustrating, but I'm glad it happened. And the new vice principal at Deer Valley, Mr. Green, is my very favorite teacher and vice principal that I've ever dealt with. And I've been doing this since 2005 when my daughter started school. So I'm happy about that. I wanted to also ask that I was a commuting mom when I first moved to Antioch. And luckily, I don't have to commute anymore. And I can come to a meeting if I need to. But we're a pocket community, and I would really like to be able to see that people can comment on Facebook again. Because I think it's important for us who work, and it might be in San Ramon or San Francisco or Oakland, or, and we're getting off at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock is a really, really challenging time to be here, and we all care about our kids. So I was hoping that would be something that we could look at. I've also heard from friends that the special education classes need more support, more aides and teachers, and I don't know if it's that we're not hiring them, we don't have a budget for them or not, but I know that the kids have their own safety concerns, and so do the teachers. I have friends that have been bit, and they have to stay in the class until somebody comes relieves them, and I think that it would be a good idea to have, maybe 2 or 3 people in the classroom to assist. So I'm hoping that will be looked into. And then the last thing that I was asked to bring up was the hiring, asking for more transparency and more exit interviews to find out what people were disappointed with, so we can address that when they come in, to have less of a rollover of our teachers, because my kids love our teachers. They come back the next year and their teacher's not there and they don't know why. And I'm hoping that maybe with some changes in the hiring process that will slow down and that our kids can get attached to those teachers again. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our teachers are vital. Teachers and administrators and classified and unclassified staff are vital to, they're the lifeblood of our school. So thank you for acknowledging that. So next, we're going to move to item 6B, individuals to address the board regarding items not on the agenda from district employees. The first is Amanda Freitas.
Good evening. First, I want to invite you to Fremont's first multicultural night. It's happening tomorrow from 5 to 6:30 in our multipurpose room. We're pretty excited about that. And then there's some issues that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is our staff parking lot at our school. During the COVID closures, a lot of the schools got their parking lots repaved. Fremont was not one of them. We have a lot of divots and potholes, holes. We were told that it couldn't be redone. At the very least, we need new stripes painted for our parking spots. We can't even see where one parking spot starts and the next one, where it ends. So that would be very helpful. Another one is the weeds around our school. We have a few areas in particular that just never seem to get attention. Right now, we have a spot right outside the bathrooms by our cafeteria that are actually next to our kindergarten playground. The weeds are taller than my 6-year-old son right now. So, and there's also weeds that grow out of the kindergarten playground that are a little, the kids are riding their bikes around the track and there's these big weeds coming out of the asphalt. So it'd be really nice if we could get those taken care of on a consistent basis. Another one is funding. I've come here, I've talked about how we fund our centrally fund, and I talked about the DI, or the bilingual aid in the office. And I was told that because John Muir's DI program is twice as big as Fremont's, that, it's more than equitable, but we need to look at more than just programs, because Fremont has a bigger EL population, we have a bigger Hispanic population. I think we have a bigger need for translation in our office. I've spoken with the ladies that work in there who are wonderful, and they tell me that 4 out of every 5 parents that come in our office are Spanish speaking. So it would be really nice if we could get some more support with that. Another one is, it's very disappointing that we won't pay for long-term subs. So once a sub reaches 30 days, we're not letting them extend in that classroom. And our DI 4-5 class is being very affected by that. The teacher that was in there wanted to stay, and she was told after 30 days, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, that in California right now you could get a waiver to stay longer than 30 days, but she was told that she couldn't. So now we have subs in and out, and the one in there right now doesn't speak Spanish, so that's not very helpful to our students in there. And then lastly, I just want to bring up special ed. I really hope that we could revisit what Trustee Lathan brought up meetings ago, because there's a lot of frustrations. There's frustrations with me as a parent trying to get my kid to services. When the district staff isn't responding to the person who is providing services to my son, they're giving inaccurate information, and I, as the parent, have to track down that information, send it to the provider so that he can get his services. I think that there's a problem with that. It's also frustrating as a teacher, because it's a very long process. And right now, we don't have experts in that process with us. So if we could bring that back, that would be great.
Dr. Lewis, I believe one of those cards was labeled. We have a member of the community still
okay.
here, so sorry. And just, I know it's a meeting with the public, but I was at Fremont today, and I noted those weeds by the multi-use room. I've already contacted maintenance, authorized overtime for also the cracks, the weeds that are coming up in the cracks on those playgrounds, because that's just something that we need to take care of. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in there.
Okay. Thank you. So Gavin Payton. Yeah.
Good evening. So I'm back again to also announce that we're having a youth banquet, and it's appreciation dinner for Mayor Chanel Scales and Supervisor Butler Glover. I'm come here to ask your if you know any schools that would also like to participate in the scholarship, to apply for the scholarship as well. The reason why it's important is because we do need to invest in our youth, and what better way to invest in them is to have them apply for scholarships for college. We already know schools need help. We already know parents need help. So we need to find a way to give back to our people and get back to community. That's what's most important. What is also important is that I'm asking for the audience and for you guys to also to come and attend. We do have tickets. The tickets are $70 each. If you are part of like an organization, a community, or et cetera, like city council, et cetera, the table is $560 if you want to buy a table. So we're asking for you all to please also spread the message to your schools, to the high schools as well, especially the upcoming graduate students. Thank you.
Yeah. So Gavin, really quick, if a person wanted to apply for the scholarship, how would they do that? Is that on?
No, we're currently working on the form, but if you leave us, we're asking them to become a member.
Okay.
And we will get in contact. So if you would like a membership form, please get in contact with us.
Okay. And so
Leave your contact information with Ms. Robbins,
Yeah.
just if you don't mind, so we can get that information out to our schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. All right, so we will return back to item 6B. Thank you, Gavin, for that presentation. 6B, the next is Heather Ostertag. Yep.
Hello, I'm speaking on behalf of the TK teachers. I'm here to talk about class size reduction. Dear board members, my name is Heather Ostertag, and I've been teaching TK since 2012. This is by far my most challenging year. My class is at max capacity, making it impossible to give them developmentally appropriate instruction and attention. When the governor lowered the age of eligibility, the class size was supposed to be reduced as well. Unfortunately, that did not happen this year. I ask that the next year the TK class size gets reduced to the 20 students it should be. Thank you. I just want to go a little bit more. We are a team that works with 14 different schools. We work very well together, and this is our biggest issue. We meet once a month, and it's just that there's too many students for our classroom. On days where I've noticed, I've been like, oh my God, this is such a great day. I've realized that it's because there's at least 4 kids missing. And I'm like, oh, we all fit into this classroom right now. Okay, this is great. They're all doing developmentally appropriate things. And it makes me sad because I look at my room and I work at Marsh. I have the Cadillac of TK classrooms. I have the big, giant classroom, and then I go to their classrooms and I'm like, oh boy, we got some work to do here because they're just not structured and they're not big enough to service these needs. And the next years, as you know, the age is going to get lowered and lowered by a few months. And so the way I like to describe it is TK and preschool, we're kind of getting married, and we are going to have to meet in the middle. And as of now, having 24 children, we're not going to meet the needs of all these kids. And so we are asking that the class size be reduced to 20. Thank you.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry. Is it 24 4-year-olds with one adult in the classroom?
No, it's 24 4-year-olds with over 12, we have to have an aide. So right now, there's 24, and there's me and an aide.
Okay.
But even if we have more, like we were just talking, even if we had more aides, it's just more bodies into a space that's not big enough.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarifying point. Excuse me. Next up is Elisa Chavez.
Good evening. You're going to hear from the speech pathologist of Antioch Unified. You haven't heard from us for 15 years. Our contract was last negotiated in 2017. I'm Elisa Chavez, by the way. I've been with Antioch Unified since 1996. Our contract was renegotiated in 2007, and our contract stated that it should be looked at annually, and here we are 15 years later. Currently, the average SLP contract is 90 students. Antioch Unified is the only district without caseload limits. This is in a violation of Ed Code 563.63.3 that states caseload should not exceed 55. We currently only have 7 district-employed SLPs with 11 contractors. Antioch Unified needs to reduce our caseload, the workload of SLPs, and we need to examine the impact of contracted SLP versus district-employed SLP. The current SLP caseload and workload is not comparable to 2007. In 2007, autism was diagnosed in 1 out of 110 students. Currently, 4 out of every 100 boys is going to be diagnosed with autism. Our job duties have significantly increased. There's lawsuits, there's advocates. The degree of services that we're providing now doesn't compare to when our contract was negotiated 15 years ago. We need to reduce our caseload because we can't handle all the work that's given to us now. Children and families aren't getting the therapy and the services that they deserved based on the loads of paperwork, lawsuits, and everything that we're inundated with. The severity of the disorders are significantly increased, and it's very difficult. There's a lot of side effects. There's work stress, there's burnout, there's illness. We can't retain SLPs at Antioch Unified. Lower caseloads would allow us to provide more effective therapy to work with families and students. One of the big problems is there's only 7 of us. I don't know the caseloads of the other 11 contracted SLPs. We're not working together as a team. Our MOU from 2007 stated that the district will decrease the use of contracted SLP services. Contractors are more costly and create dissension due to the unequal compensation between SLPs, district, and contracted SLPs, who are providing basically the same services. The district has not decreased its utilization of contracted SLPs. They've increased it. Why can't Antioch hire more SLPs? Why? I'll tell you why, because of caseload and workload. People don't want to work here. Too big a caseload. So after 15 years, I'm asking that Antioch Unified look closely at the caseloads and workloads at the SLP and the districts so we can hire and retain people that want to be here and be accountable to our students. And contractors don't have that same continuity. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay, so thank you for those public comments. We will definitely take those under advisement and report out as things become, or as things move, as things progress. Next is district reports. Item 7, there are none. Hearings, item 8, there are none. Public presentations, item 9, there are none. 10, there are, is consent, our consent calendar. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull for discussion? Yeah, Dr. Jack?
So, 10F, services agreement with Carolyn Barney. That is the mathematics consulting person. I'm curious, because I looked at our test scores for math and the other areas as well, and I'm assuming it's Ms. Ibarra's instruction. What is our approach to math? Like, what is our pedagogy around mathematics instruction? Because I didn't see, even though it says she's going to provide consulting, it wasn't a particular, like, bend towards math, right? So, because you have different ways and approaches. So I'm like, well, what is she going to be doing with our math teachers?
So Ms. Barney is a very experienced educator and math coach, and she had retired recently, and so she had become available. She has worked with the county, not only our county, but also the Alameda County, in different practices, number talks. She's also participated. We have the framework, the math framework just got approved by CDE in July. And so she had sat on CDE in the adoption process as they are looking at the publishers that are coming. So she's also helping our teachers to prepare for the shifts that are going to be in that framework. And just provide, we haven't, our teachers, and particularly our elementary teachers, have not received professional development in the time that I've been here in math. And so we've done a little bit with the county, but that county person could not dedicate the amount of time and the needs. And she would also be working with, aside from providing professional development, but would also be working with teacher leaders at our schools, in our elementary schools.
Thank you. My question is, what is our approach to math here? Or do we have one yet?
I think that's what we need to kind of.
That's what you're going to figure out. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Yep. Because I just want to make sure, because as I walk classrooms, I see a lot of worksheets and lots of, 2 times 4 and that kind of thing. And while those skills are really important, it's also the critical thinking in math that's important. So I appreciate when you talked about number talks, problem of the month, things like that. But I would love to follow up.
Just going back to those math routines and really looking at the mathematical practices. So there's the standards, but then there's also the 8 mathematical practices, and kind of re-engaging in that work.
Yeah. So I'll follow up with you later.
Yes.
Later time.
And I can provide Friday board, updates as well.
Okay.
Yeah, a question on that. What role do our teachers have in advocating and selecting the types of professional development that they receive?
That, if you're talking globally, not just
But
specific.
math specific.
I know that there are surveys that are put out that inquire of what our teachers want. I think what Ms. Barney's approach is going to be is to bring in the teacher leaders from schools and develop that together, because I think it's kind of been left without a lot of attention. And so I think kind of re-engaging what are those best practices that are out there in math. So I feel like we're at a point, if I were to speak on behalf of teachers, I don't even know if we know what we don't know in terms of the shifts. And then I think with the framework, there are some pretty clear shifts in practice that are emerging in that. And so I think all of us can get acquainted and work through that together.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think
If you have a chance to look at it, it's up on the CDE's website. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think
I've appreciated the shifts that they've taken.
definitely. Yeah, whatever we can do to make sure that teachers get as much of a stake in their own learning and development in their own craft.
Absolutely.
I have another question.
Trustee Rocha?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
And one of the reasons why I asked a question about our approach to math is because with consultants, it can be tricky, right? So if they don't have a direction, they take us on a ride versus we say, this is our approach and this is the consultant that will be the perfect person to help lead us through it. And so my only concern is I'm not hearing that we have an approach. And so just I'm just hoping we're cautious and not we're driving the bus, right? And someone else is helping us get to where we need to get to versus saying, this is what you need to do. There's a lot of research out there around
Right.
mathematics instruction. That's powerful.
We're following, and like I said, I had an opportunity to preview the framework, and the framework is pretty clear in what that approach is in moving forward. And so I think it's not only a benefit for us to utilize that framework, but that's also the lens, if we can become acquainted with it, that will be the lens that we will use as we approach the math adoption process, because I want to make sure that we are adopting a curriculum that aligns with the expectations of the state.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So my understanding is that you were looking for someone that could take our teachers through and direct them, and help them find their way of how they want to approach and pick the right solution for the district. Is that correct?
Yes, we've been unsuccessful. We've wanted to have a math coach. We did have one at one point. And then having the teacher shortage, we weren't able to hire a TOSA full-time. But this would at least get us some support in moving in that direction. And so that's why we've gone with this at this point.
Any additional questions? Any other items that would like?
Yes.
Yep.
Anybody else before I go again? 10G, service agreement with Chosen Life After School Program. I read over the contract a few times and did not see, and this is for Dallas Ranch, I did not see a scope of work on the contract. In the agenda, on the board agenda, it has some of the areas they'll be working on, but the one that we'll sign and the contractors will sign doesn't say anything about what they're going to do in there. And so just curious about that.
In terms of the cooking classes and the different activities?
The contract doesn't have that in there. I didn't see it. I looked at it a few times to make sure my
Okay.
eyes weren't deceiving me. So,
I apologize if we missed that.
yeah, no, it's,
Yeah, it's listed there, but we can ensure that it gets embedded into the
Yeah,
actual
'cause it's-
body of the contract.
yeah, because if we're approving contracts, we should know, it should be in the contract
Yes.
about what we're approving, because
Yeah.
the contractor can say, well, you didn't tell me that, but you did say you're going to pay me $50,000, so give me my money. Most
Right,
people wouldn't do
right.
that, but.
Right.
But it's not in the contract what they're supposed to do. 10I, unless someone else has something about 10G.
I know, I'm trying to understand that. You mean to tell me it's not written in the paper, in the contract?
No.
Of what the items that they're going to present?
Yeah, there's no scope of work
No,
listed.
there's no scope of work.
On page 3 of 5,
So did I miss it?
10G.
it's under 11. Sometimes the print is very small in the contracts. I don't know why, it's just kind of pre-populated that way.
I would think that you would know what was going to be presented before the contract is set up.
You said it's on page,
3 of 5.
Yeah, I looked at it a few times. I did not see that Chosen Life After School program is a 10-week program that will take place, blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that piece is in there. Sorry. Okay, I'm glad
Thank
looked
you.
at it.
And next, 10I, UC Berkeley Advisors. How are we going to build the capacity of school counselors to lead the work? So we're having UC Berkeley come in and do work, which is great. But how are we building the capacity of school counselors to do what they're doing?
It's in tandem. Our counselors do a lot of that work, but this is specific for the UC system.
Okay.
Just additional support.
So it's A through G work.
But why do we need outside people to do it if we have counselors?
I believe it's just the way because they help with the systems within the UC. I mean, I'd have to, I don't know if, Ms. Anello, do you know on the history of it? I know they've been doing it for a very long time.
So she could probably, can you speak to this, Ms. Director Wisely? I don't want to put you on the spot. You can tell me no.
It's for Antioch High School.
Well, I mean, I just want to say,
Partnership with UC Berkeley.
yeah, that they've had a lot of success with this program. I know that if Principal Jimno were here, they've had it for several years now, and the counselors do work with them in conjunction, and they're trained extensively in our district on A to G, UC, CSU requirements. I think there's two different programs running from the UC in the district. This one at Antioch High is around college advising. We have another one at Deer Valley, so I think the UC system tries to connect with us, and
Yeah,
so we,
yeah.
we try to invite them in because we want to encourage our students to transition on to college.
And Lindsay, Miss Lindsay, so are our counselors doing that same thing?
Yeah, our counselors at the high school level do extensive academic advising. At the elementary and middle school level, it's a lot more social emotional, but our counselors really are experts at the high school level. They do individualized plans with families. In fact, they meet in cohorts. Right now, they're making sure they're covering their seniors. They move on to their junior cohort. There's a lot of, because we have the A to G grant, we've done a lot of work with our counselors in the last couple years with extending our training around helping advise students for college and meeting those A to G requirements.
Perfect, thank you. 10J, unless someone wants to comment on that. I'm excited to see the Puente program here to work with our students, and the scope of work was extremely clear. They had a whole page on what they're going to do, so it made it very easy to understand. But I want to read for the audience, so at least folks will know, like the programs we have here is to increase the number of educationally underrepresented students who enroll in four-year colleges and universities, earn college degrees, and return to the community as members and leaders to future generations. This is their mission statement for Puente. And the program is interdisciplinary in approach with writing, counseling, and mentoring components. So I love that they talked about summer and fall institutes, consultation and site visits, identifying community resources. So that was extremely clear. Thank you for bringing that back. That's it.
In fact, I'm very interested when they have graduation and they carry their banner Puente. And there's quite a few of the students that graduate. They're going on to college.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so are there any other items for discussion or that folks would like to pull? I will entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve all consent items A through L.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve all consent items A
Second.
through L. Properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. All right, next, item 11, action items. There are none. Now, item 12, items for information, discussion, and/or action by the board. The first is board governance.
Mr.
12A.
Chair?
Yes.
Under the circumstances, our other member is not here. I know that this is, I'm just going to ask if we could just delay until he comes back at the next meeting. We had to delay it once before, but I'd like to see us all have part in the process.
In the discussion. For the November, what's the next board meeting?
October 25th.
October 25th. Is there any contention around that? Okay. All right, so we can suspend this item until the October 25th board meeting. All right, next is item 12B, exit interview policy. Is that Christine?
I believe Trustee Hernandez asked for this
Yeah,
at the last
I
meeting.
can get us
but
kicked
that-
off. Yeah. So at the last meeting, I asked for us to spend some time talking about exit interview policy and things that we can do to kind of facilitate that process. We've had several people from the community ask for this. So I think it'd be, not to put you on the spot, Dr. Martinez, but if you have an overview about what our practices might be right now, that could be a good framework for starting off a discussion.
So at the present time, what you've received as your board items are board policies on resignations, and again, on our practices of non-discriminatory process within the employment field, whether it's a new employee, whether it's a current employee, or whether it's employees leaving. In the process of receiving resignations, the district has documentation that an employee fills out, letting us know that they'll be leaving their positions. If it's a certificated employee, we actually have education code that allows us, through the superintendent's ability, to set the time of their departure. For example, teachers who are under contract right now simply can't walk in and say, I'm taking another job in another location. Because they're under contract, in essence, it's a commitment that the district makes to them and that they make to the district for that year, so their credential is under contract. So when we have circumstances of individuals leaving for retirement, of course, it's usually after they've had a fulfilled year and years of service. And then there's different variety of reasons why individuals leave their positions. We do track those reasons. Some people simply move. Some people get, orders through their spouse that they have to go to another, area. Some people do, leave because they're unhappy with the circumstance. At the present time, we are not engaging in full exit interviews, as there's no direct board policy that allows or directs that to occur. We do engage, and there's opportunities for people to share with this information. We have, again, depending on what they have indicated on their resignation, we'll follow up with that individual seeking to receive information. So that's our general standard process right now, is looking to see if there's something the individual would like to share with us. When you start thinking about why we would do exit interviews, what we have, or I have done in the past, is use some initial survey documents to collect data. There are a variety of reasons that sometimes people decide they're leaving. Sometimes it's not a good fit for them as an employee for whatever reason, and they don't choose to tell us what their reason is. And so one avenue that we could initiate, if this is the direction of the superintendent, would be to initiate some level of exit interview opportunity based under a survey of data. That data that we would track would be for all departing employees, certificated, classified, administrative. Again, the idea behind that is that you're using the data to understand trends or to understand process. There will be individuals who are mad because of a variety of things. Maybe they don't like the way we are directing our education policies. Maybe they don't like the direction of a supervisor. Maybe it goes on and on. But we have to understand the collective pieces of data to try and understand what's happening with our folks who are leaving.
Yeah.
That could be something that we engage in, and there's a variety of ways that we can do that. Also, then offering the opportunity for people to actually have one-on-one meetings. Again, there's always personnel time involved in carrying out those duties, as opposed to duties of hiring, recruiting, engaging in getting people into positions. So there's a give and take. But that's just a broad.
Right, and we would, and I guess the assumption there would be that if we do our job in narrowing down on what the data is that we're getting from these exit interviews and this, that we'd have less of this hiring and worrying about recruiting and those pieces, so that we'd get a lot of better return on the use of our labor there. I'm wondering, currently, because to my knowledge, I don't think we have. Do we review the current data that we collect on why people are leaving? Like, could we answer the question right now? What are the top 3 reasons that people are leaving, that people choose to leave their role in this district?
Well, I don't have that data in front of me. Yes, we do have collective broad data. Again, generally the reasons fall into the areas of retirement, moving out of the area. Some people will indicate simply personal because they won't want to engage in that process, depending on what their circumstance is. But there's several broad categories that we do track right now.
Right. Yeah. So I guess then maybe some of the other steps that we need to take is to find ways for that to be more specific. And then, then I'd want to frame our conversation around the pieces that we do have a say in. Because, yeah, I mean, I think it's very likely that, right, that resignation and moving are the top reasons. We can't do anything about it. But what are like the top 3 reasons of things that we do have a role in that do show structural changes that maybe we need within our organization?
Thank you, Dr. Martinez, for sharing that. I appreciate the flow of, you said a survey, and I've seen that happen in districts and county offices as well, where there's an exit survey, and then one of the last question is, would you mind talking, right? And so that's my hope. The community is asking. When the NAACP contacted me with concerns about why Black employees are leaving and at high rates, and that's the information they have, we need data, right, from our own organization to say yay or nay, or these are the trends. And I think the important piece of this is to be, for us to make improvements where we can, right? And so whenever I'm asking for data in particular, and I'm hoping this is the board's take, but for sure mine, it's so that we can do better, right? It's not I got your moment. It is, here's the truth. This is where we are. That's why we're doing equity audits, right? And now what do we do to improve? And so I am, I don't know if we need to make a motion or not, but I would like to see sample questions, for example, of exit surveys, so that we can have discussions. And because to me, that's like the lowest hanging fruit. A survey is easy, and then they can choose to talk to someone.
I think the board can simply direct me to implement an exit survey, and then we can do that. I can codify it in administrative regulations, which is an administrative function for the board. Happy to do that.
So I was going to ask Dr. Martinez, so for those exit surveys that you're familiar with in other districts, the ones that exist, are they mostly quantitative? Are they qualitative? Prior to the in-person interaction.
Right, absolutely. One of the best surveys, and again, that I have implemented, has both sets of data. Again, there's kind of a scale and a rating for how people feel about the particular issue involved, and then there are several opportunities to give some context within that process that helps describe their feelings. So again, there's several models that I already have privy to, that it really would be pretty quick of us to utilize our technology systems now to have those types of things set up. Again, under superintendent's direction, if she'd like to do that, or you can go that way. The other avenue would be, again, getting more deeper into your board policies. But again, it's hard to then manage rather than giving the direction through the administrative regulation is, again, I would suggest that that's an easier alternative to have us start to gather some data for you.
Yeah, and I think it'll be important once we have that information, whatever direction that looks like, that we also have that information accessible. Because again, we can collect a bunch of data and it's beautiful and shiny, but if nobody has access to it, it's not really.
I would give you just my opinion that, again, as part of your board governance and your structure and your calendar, that you have kind of a yearly then opportunity to receive data from year to year to year. That's when you start to see some of the trends rather than taking, oh my gosh, one person left and they really left in an angry state. You start to see the group of individuals leaving and the new people coming in and the transitions. So you start collectively over years getting some data through that process, which would be helpful to guide, again, structures of the district.
Yeah. Trustee Rocha?
No, fine.
Just another question, kind of putting on a more long-term vision type of brainstorming idea. Do we ever, or do districts ever do any kind of I guess what would be like an entry survey that maybe touches on, because we're going to ask them things, I assume, on the exit survey related to their experience. And if we can understand what were their expectations about their experience, then we can be even more proactive about those kinds of things. Again, this is more long-term, changing the culture of retaining teachers and things.
That's a great idea.
And I do want to reiterate, to add to that, not just teachers, but also classified
staff.
Yeah, all staff.
And we would like to see, I would like to see, I can't say my colleagues, the questions, like proposed questions.
Absolutely.
So we can weigh in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Happy to do that if that's the will of the board. I see a lot of nodding heads.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. Great, thank you.
But just to finish up with it, like, is that something that has been seen before, or because I don't have like the most experience in the entire HR process, like an entry type of survey.
No, I've never seen it. I don't know if Dr. Rob has,
No,
but I
think
like
that
the
would
idea
be
a lot.
very unique thing to do, but it's not something that would be unreasonable for our new employees, and it would actually provide us maybe some guidance within those first several months of employment that we're taking care of certain things. As employees come in and they're doing their onboarding, of course, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of mandated training, there's a lot of things that we have to give them, but it would be informative to have some ideas about what they'd like to see as they're becoming new employees. I think it's a good opportunity for us.
And Trustee Hernandez, the reason I like that idea is because it would be also aid us when we also want to know what's attracting teachers and classified staff to the district. And maybe what's not attracting them, maybe it's our class size, maybe it's, wanting to work with a diverse population. But that would be interesting to see what in between happened if it's a negative experience.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's some interest in maybe developing, a pre and post interview surveys that would include. So we have a speaker card. Deborah Vinson.
Hi. Thank you, President Lewis and VP Lathan and board members. I just want to remind the board that you have one employee, and that is the superintendent. And so in reference to the exit policy, I would encourage you all to have maybe a study session to talk about what you would like to see in the exit policy so you're clear. I do remember 2 weeks ago, some employees coming to complain, and they were worried about their jobs and worried about the impact, the negative impact coming from the superintendent. So I think if you want to create an environment that's inclusive, I think it's important to begin sort of a structure, a study session for listening and for what you want the outcome to be. If you want employees to feel valued and welcome in this district, and if you want employees of color to feel valued and welcome, then it has to be clear from the beginning. Everybody's talking about DEI, but it's really hard to put it into practice if you haven't given it some conscious thought. And that's across the board, like if you want employees to come to you, if you don't want them to come to you, I think it all has to be clear. And I think the other thing about an exit policy is it can't be a part of someone's performance evaluation. They have the right to have respect in a job, and they have the right to how they want to be here and their opinions. I just know that historically, the district has not served employees well. Thank you.
Yep, and I do agree.
Yeah, so I think, I think that initial first step is maybe having some templates from other districts that exist.
Yes,
because again, there are some limitations in terms of what we can and can't do.
correct.
Yeah.
But I think the point, going back to this exit interview thing, and I've been feeling this way in terms of our board, is we're directing the work. And so what is it that we want to see, right? And I think that's where we need to capitalize on work sessions, study sessions, things like that, so we can have these conversations. So I 100% agree. We have to make time.
Right. No, and I'm saying both and. Right. So, I think starting with, what exists, and then having a work session to say, okay, well, of those things that exist, because again, there's limitations around. So, Ed Code sort of determines the limitations of what we can do. So we see what exists, and then we figure out in conversations with our faculty and staff what sort of makes most sense, and then we can develop that entry and exit survey that would fit the needs of our district.
Well, and then I also think love to see ways to get the community involved in the process, or have some kind of avenue for here. Because this conversation, I think, was spurred on by community coming to say things, and that they think that we believe that we need exit interviews in this district. So I think honoring that originated in the community should be something we should strive to do as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item 13, resolutions for first reading. There are none. 14, resolutions for immediate action. Resolution 2023-24-21, sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials.
If the board recalls, at our last meeting, we had a hearing on the sufficiency of our textbooks, and this is being brought to you for your approval or your adoption at this time. The resolution stating that we have the sufficiency in textbooks across the district.
Okay. Are there any questions around this item, Trustee Hernandez? Trustee Dr. Lathan?
Yeah, how do you determine the sufficiency of textbooks?
All of our principals, they're given an inventory and they have to submit and attest, they sign off that they have everything that is required at their schools. And then at the Williams schools, of course, that's also a more formalized process.
And the Williams Schools for Public Consumption is?
They're all of our schools that are in CSI. Don't ask me what that is. I always forget. Comprehensive
Support intervention.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Trustee Lathan? Okay. Trustee Rocha?
Fine, no.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I have a motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion on the floor properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. All right. Item 15, resolution for second reading and action. There are none. 16, revised board policies for first reading, revised board bylaw 9270, conflict of interest.
Mr.
Oh, yep.
Did you want to introduce this one, Ms. Robbins, or is? I can if you would like.
Go ahead.
So there's new laws that said you must now have a two-tiered approach to determining a conflict of interest. So you have to use both the Political Reform Act and Government Code 1090, which deals with those. So before you didn't have to use both of them, and this reflects the new law.
Okay. Any questions? Trustee Rocha?
No questions.
Trustee Dr. Jack?
I reached out to CSBA just to get clarification on this. They were telling me that when they give us samples, they give us several options, and most of the time, as far as I know, you all choose the option for us. And so I want to see all of the options. Did this one have multiple options, or was it the only
I can't
one?
recall offhand. I don't think I did this particular policy, but if that's the will of the board, we're happy to provide
because
you
right
the
now,
sample and then what we recommend.
Perfect, yeah. So board, just to let you know, when CSBA writes these policies, I met with someone from CSBA last week, their policy person, and she told me that they always write it with like at least 3 options. And when I showed her ours, she was like, yeah, that's one option, not all 3. And so I think for us to govern in a way that we're making decisions based on our values and beliefs and for the community, we need to see all of the options.
I just need the board to kind of give a nod of heads. If that's something you like, I'm happy to provide it.
Thank you.
And this is for first reading, so there's no action today.
So can you send us?
Yes, in the future, when there's a board policy, I will attach to the agenda the CSBA sample with the options and also the one that we're recommending as a first
Perfect.
read.
I
And
love
then you
that.
can, if you have changes, we can bring it back for the second read with those changes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So 17, board policies for second reading and action. There are 5. First is revised board policy 0430, comprehensive local plan for special education.
And these policies came at the last meeting. You can take them as a bundle or you can take them individually.
Yeah.
That's the will of the board.
Are there any would like discussion on?
17E, placement in mathematics courses.
Okay.
I looked on our dashboard, and that's that shows our student test scores. And of course, that's just one measure. That's not, all the formative assessments and the shorter term assessments that our students take. But all of our student groups, all of them are scoring low or very low in mathematics. And when I looked at the example or the policy here, I'm wondering, again, is this one that we should have multiple options for? Like, did CSBA give us this one?
Yes, it did. And this one did not contain options. I know that the special education one did.
Okay.
But we had to select the option because we are a district that we participate in a SELPA. It depended on the SELPA. This one did not have options.
Okay. So, because my question was, I was concerned. I was like, did the state, like, who said that we needed to do this? Some of it is good, right? Because the part that concerned me is that we have to, I'm wondering how much we're closing off opportunities for students. We don't want them to fail in math for sure, right? But it felt very confined when I read it. And so I'm not sure. Can you talk to me about, like, how will that affect this policy, for example, A through G requirements for math for students? It felt like tracking more than anything. Because our students as a whole are not accelerated in their mathematics yet. I'm using the word yet because I know we will be. So how will that impact their ability to take their A through G courses, AP or honors courses?
This is really focused on the placement of the courses, and it focuses in on having multiple measures. So it can't just be one source of data that determines whether a student is ready for Algebra 1, for instance. That's the big one. And so it's that requirement that we utilize that. And in our district, we utilize our second outside of the CASP assessment is that we utilize the iReady Math benchmark for our 8th graders. Those two combined is what determines their placement.
And I think that's really the challenge that I'm seeing, because if our test scores are low and we're using that, right, then not many kids are going to take advanced math courses. And if we're using iReady and kids aren't strong with testing, then they're still not going to be able to take the courses it feels like there needs to be something else where we're saying we want to open up this opportunity for kids. We're not just going to go on a test, because tests aren't always the best measures. Sometimes there's other areas that kids are good in, they're strong in, whether they're doing performance tasks or they're good at, whatever it is. And so I'm not sure what that looks like here, but it feels like it should be, we could open it up more so that there could be more opportunities for kids to be successful.
We can look at a third measure, if that's something, but we can.
I don't know if there's currently an AR, administrative rule, that goes with this, but that can also be included in an AR. If we haven't written one, we could.
It would be.
Yeah, there is revised administrative rule placement in mathematics courses is 18H for the administrative rules.
That's right.
I think it specifies what measures we use.
Yeah. But I feel like it should also be in the policy. I'm just hesitant around this one because it feels like we're putting kids in a box, and we need to open up opportunities instead of closing them. So
I think that's correct. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. I'm wondering, when you read the administrative rule, it actually looks like the purpose is designed to open. So in previous years, it was, well, we'll take your one test and your grades. And this is offering alternates. But we can look at other alternates as well.
yes, it is an administrative rule, but I'm thinking about the policy. So is there a way we can bring it back? Do we have to have it right now, or can we bring this back
We can bring it back.
with additional opportunities for kids in the policy?
So if I'm understanding correctly, Dr. Jag, it's more like introducing multiple intelligences where a kid who may not necessarily be logically inclined, they may be kinesthetically inclined, but using those separate measures to determine the likelihood that they could be successful in a given
Yes,
environment.
because if you look at our test scores, they're low. And so if that's the case, and I know it's not just the CASP, it's also iReady, but if they're not scoring well, then what math can, like, it feels like this never-ending block, right? And so we have to find other measures. That's why I asked about the mathematics approach, the pedagogical approach that we have in our district. What is the approach that's going to help kids progress in math? And then how do we utilize that to ensure that they are getting into the classes that they need So they can do whatever they want, whether it's career or college.
So strength finding, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't think this has a time limit on it, so I
It does not have a time
Board
limit.
wants to bring it back that.
Right, and I think the board policy specifically addresses the ed code, and it does provide options. So within there, I think it's paragraph 3, it talks about a number of different ways in which the state or ed code accepts different multiple measures. And then the administrative regulation, we can certainly look at and expand that, because that's what we use locally to carry that out. So if you would like us to reconsider the AR, we could go back and do that and add some more detail and options there.
I think the board should stay within board policy, not
Oh,
administrative
that's right.
rule.
I'm so sorry.
That's,
I know.
that's a-
But
that's a
policy,
how, but-
policy, usually the how doesn't end up in the policy.
Right, but the what, we could include like multiple measures.
Yeah.
And maybe include some examples of that. And if you have some that you want to send before our next meeting, we can definitely consider that as well.
Do we want to be that prescriptive to identify?
And that's why I'd say we want multiple measures, including but not limited to, some kind of language like that. And then we could go back and look at the AR and maybe revise.
And that's
some of
what's
that.
in there. It says are but are not limited to, and it lists a number, about 7 things, it looks like, 7 or 8 things.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any disagreement with
No.
bringing that policy back?
Better, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the policy's already there, so I'm just asking, like,
Well, we can't, for the AR, we can't.
Just not approve it tonight. We'd come back and,
Hold it.
no, I'm talking about the board policy specifically, because the language is there, so I guess I need more direction if we're going to bring it back, what we're planning to change within it, because it's not,
So just adding some reference to the multiple intelligences or multiple measures.
and that's but it's already in there.
That's what she-
I just
So-
want to
In the
know
board
if there's
policy?
something different than
so why don't we
what's in
table it
paragraph
tonight?
3.
And that'll give the board a week or two
Yeah.
to kind of look it over again, share some of their thoughts, and then we'll bring it back based on that.
Okay.
Thank
Are
you.
there any other items to pull or discuss from item 18? All right, I'll entertain a motion. You going to make the motion since you pulled H? Is it 17?
17.
I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong session. 17.
Yep. So I make a motion to approve item 17, board policies for second reading and action. And item E will come back. We'll come back just for a discussion. And maybe you and I can talk later. I know I just interrupted that motion. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So if I'm going to, is it okay if I restate your motion? So
Sure.
we'll make I have a motion on the floor to approve item 17, A through D, removing item E for revisit at a future board meeting. Do I have a proper second?
A second.
Oh, you made the motion.
Second.
But you just repeated it.
Repeated it. Second by trustee Rocha. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. All right. Item 18, information items for general information. Are there any items for detailed discussion or questions by the board? No? Okay. Next up is future agenda items from board members. Trustee Hernandez.
Nothing at this time.
Nothing at this time. Trustee Dr. Lathan.
This, I think it's already on there, the SPED audit.
That's coming next board meeting.
Okay,
This will be a district report.
yeah.
Just want to finish whatever we have.
Right, and there are a lot.
I know, that's why I want to finish them.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't have any as well. We do have a list. And so as we just, in terms of public consumption, as we add to that list, we make sure that we are bringing those items back and visiting them in a proper order. So that makes sense. So that's why we add items, and they may not necessarily come up on the next agenda, but they will come up in subsequent agendas. We are making sure that we run through that list. All right.
Oh, wait, I do have, you asked for future meeting.
Yes.
I do have one. Educational Equity and Excellence Committee. I feel like once we get the equity audits, we need to have some conversations about how we're going to digest the information, learn from it. So that's one thing.
Just the one?
That's it.
Okay. All right. So item 20, additional comments that exceeded the first 30-minute session limit. There were none. Report 21, reports, comments from board members. Trustee Hernandez.
Yeah, so I'll just share the book that I brought today to highlight. It's called My Powerful Hair, and it's by Carol Lindstrom. And this highlights the importance of hair among Indigenous communities. So I wanted to specifically highlight this book because our next meeting will be after Indigenous Peoples Day. So I want to take a moment to highlight this book that highlights the importance that hair has on culture. And we know that throughout not just Indigenous cultures, but many other cultures, hair has such a strong significance in the way that shapes our identities. And I think this is a great book that continues to expand on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Dr. Lathan.
I visited 3 schools this week, M&O Grant, and their library is really nice. I always like to give at least one shout out from the schools. There were kindergartners, excuse me, engaged in a read aloud in the kindergarten in the library. So great job, M&O. Marsh Elementary and Bidwell Alternative. I went to those 2 schools today. Marsh Elementary, they were engaged in small group instruction. Miss Hussein is a first grade teacher, and she was working with kids on phonics review, some first graders. So that was a really powerful moment. In Bidwell Alternative School, I observed most classrooms with Principal Dr. Williams, and one classroom in particular, they were doing a creative writing course, and I walked around. The kids knew what genre meant. Like I asked them, what genre are you working on? And they were able to tell me. And one young lady told me she was working on a story. She was writing a horror story because it was creative writing, and she goes through this whole plot, and it was so amazing. She wanted to read the whole thing to me, but it was really long. And so I asked her if she would email it to me, and she was so excited. So she's going to email me her story. But Bidwell is an alternative school. And to have the young people who were there be so engaged in this creative writing process, I thought, how brilliant are they? And I appreciate alternative schools. They're there for a reason. And I wondered, why are they there, right? They have so much just brilliance in them. And the staff is doing a great job. The campus is amazing in terms of, the custodial staff really keeps up the building. So I just wanted to share those 3 schools that I visited, and just super excited. Lastly, in our new board policy 9240, we are sharing out on according to the policy, sharing out on our professional learning for board members. So I had a CSBA, California School Board Association Masters in Governance course, and it was well attended and amazing. And we talked about instruction and policy. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Rocha.
I just wanted to say that there is a Bill AB 1078 the CSBA is really supporting for information to us. It's going to affect us in the near future, and they're having if you have a chance to get on it, it's tomorrow at 2:30 to 4.
Okay. Can you share out the information?
Yeah, but I think it's going to be important as to how the districts are going to deal with it. But I just want to say also, I was impressed at whether you have the girls' flag football starting, and it was on Monday. And we're starting the league, and that's exciting because it's one more area where people can girls can participate, or just, I don't know, you see football all the time, so now we get to see the girls in flag football. And of course, I remember that Thursday is the parent gathering at Fremont. I don't remember, what was the time? Was it 6? 5:30. 5:30, thank you. And then, of course, the kindergartners are having their parade at 8:30 in the morning.
On Friday,
Yeah, on Friday. So just an invitation on that one.
Okay. All right. And so I want to send a special shout out to the teachers, family members, and the community. The last 3.5 years has been very difficult for all of us. COVID has sort of shifted the way we understand each other, the way we engage. And I also want us to all appreciate and sort of give each other some grace, because as we're adjusting back to whatever this new reality is going to be moving forward, there's some adjustments. We have kids, for our elementary school teachers, we have kids who probably have never been in school. We want to make sure that we allow grace for the kiddos, but also I do appreciate, my wife works in special ed. I also appreciate the challenges that teachers are experiences as well. So, I don't necessarily, I have a bunch of stuff that I've done and all that stuff, but what's most important is the work that we do here from the board and making sure that the folks that are doing the work are and feel appreciated. So, I'll use my time for that. And so, Trustee Hernandez, would you like to close on Indigenous Peoples Day since we won't necessarily be in? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, I selected you. You did mention it.
yes. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day, which is October 9th.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a proper second? All right, I have a motion and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? We will, I'm sorry, future board meetings. October 25th and November 8th are our next board meetings. So thank you all, and we'll see you soon.